Changos, the monkeys, an ancient South American tribe.
Los Changos. The first mention of Changos that we have been able to find occurs in the geographical historical description of the Kingdom of Chile, written by Vicente Carvalho e Goyeneche in 1788. This author says that there were groups of Changos in Tongoy, Coquimbo, Huasco, and Copiapo, Caldera. Jose Perez Garcia, in his History of Chile, found in 1810, also uses this term. It is not surprising that so little mention of this town is found in the oldest works, for it occupied the coast of a region that in colonial times was almost completely unknown. Situated between the two viceroyalties of Chile and Peru, bordering the almost impassable desert. During the last century, the resurgence of mining in that area, the opening of several ports, and the various scientific expeditions undertaken by private individuals or at the expense of the governments of different states have brought to light some scant data about the few families scattered along the coast. In small coves where a relatively calm sea and abundant fishing provided them with their main food. Until now, no thorough or special study has been done on these people, and the few authors who mention them have been content to consider all the different tribes or families found among the coast as belonging to the same ethnic entity, including in the same classification the remains found in the ancient tombs of the coast. The first description of the Shangos that we know of comes from the pen of Alcides de Orgny, the illustrious naturalist who made a study of the American races, publishing his results in 1835 in volume 4 of his work under the title Le Homme Américain, the American Man. De Orgny says that even though he considers the Shangos in the Atacama as positive descendants of the Peruvian branch and possibly of the Aymara or Quechua, they may form a transition between this and the Araucanian people. He places their main center of life north of Cobija and says that in 1832 they numbered approximately 1,000 souls. Changos descriptions. Their complexion was similar to that of the Quechas, but a little darker. Their forms were similar to those of the Quechua, but their chest development was less. As for their features, they resembled the Aymara and the Quechua with horizontal eyes, a moderately prominent nose, but never alkaline, narrow at the tip, but wide in the nostrils. They had a sad and somber physiognomy. In general, their character was peaceful, affable, and hospitable. Their language was distant from Atacameño, Quechua, and Aymara. 2 years before de Orgny's visit to Cobija, a large number of Indian remains had been discovered at a depth or a little over 1 meter. These were very ancient, buried according to their sex, not squatting as is the custom among most South American peoples, but lying down. They were clothed and they still had their hair. Their color is dark brown, but not coppery, rather tanned. The hair is black, straight, and stiff. Now they cut it, but before they must have worn it in shorter length. The women either leave it loose or in two braids. The eyes are small, dark brown, almost black. The nose is prominent, large, and fleshy, wide at the nostrils, but never alkaline, generally straight. The mouth is large. The cheeks are wide, but not very prominent. In general, their bodies are lean, with little tendency toward obesity noticeable among them. Despite these general characteristics, there is no homogeny among them, with much diversity of physiognomies and skin tones observed. The Shingos. Toribio Medina in his Aborigines de Chile fully reproduces the Orbanese opinion. Coming from the north, we first have the Alacama, whose main center seems to have been the vicinity of present-day town of Chichu, but they extended to the coast of the uninhabited area. The Shangos, who at one time must have been relatively numerous, populated exclusively the coast between 22 and 24 south latitude. They retained great affinities with the former. They had the same color as the Quechua, but a little darker, like with blackish highlights, a slightly shorter stature, especially the women, a sad, somber countenance with a rarely alkaline nose. They differ as much from the Atacama as the latter differ from the Aymara or Quechua. The same can be said of their language. Displacement of the Changos. The primary force in every culture, however high or low, is necessity. And the first steps toward a higher civilization are the slowest and most difficult. Man in his primitive state is essentially conservative, and he does not abandon a means of existence except driven by natural or social forces that he cannot control. Thus, hunger, scarcity of water, the rigors of climate, the eruption of powerful enemies, or any other cause against which he cannot successfully fight can determine a change of customs or the abandonment of a locality that is no longer favorable. If none of these cases occur, the routine of life remains more or less bearable in the conditions in which it is found. Centuries can pass without him being removed from the environment in which he was born. A people dedicated to fishing or hunting does not change their way of life without powerful forces at work. On a coast where fish, shellfish, and edible seaweed are always abundant, protected by almost impassable deserts that prevent sudden incursions by rival or enemy peoples, it is very easy to understand how a sparse and scattered population could spend generation after generation devoted to an archaic and stagnant life. This was the case of the Changos and other tribes of the coast of the northern provinces. The successful invasions of the Incas and the Spaniards passed them almost without noticing their existence. The region they occupied offered no incentive neither to the glory of conquest for the former, nor to the thirst of gold for the latter. Secure in their poverty and in the sterility of the regions they occupied, the coastal tribes were forgotten or scorned by their powerful neighbors. The extinction or migration of the Changos. During the last few centuries, the coasts of the province of Tarapacá have been dominated by tribes of Aymara origin. Prior to their arrival on the coast, this same territory was occupied by the Changos people, whose remains are found in many of the old cemeteries. For some time, the two people lived side by side, but soon the Changos were either gradually absorbed by their more powerful and numerous neighbors, or they migrated further south. With the exception of those found in the more modern cemeteries, all of the skulls of the Aymara are deformed. They exhibit the deformation generally known by the name of people who practiced it, Aymara. It is therefore difficult to say with certainty what the true normal shape of their skulls was. The modern ones that are not deformed do not help us much because they demonstrate such diversity of types that it is easy to imagine that there might have been multiple mixtures. Sir Clements Markham believes that they formerly occupied the coast of North Callao and, driven south by the Chimu, sought refuge in Arica and Tarapacá, in turn displacing the Changos, who occupied the entire coast as far as the Cayente in Peru, where their graves have been found with corpses stretched out. The Shang The Changos are of a Peruvian affinity, a result of the Inca domination of the section of Chile north of the Cachapoal River. They mainly inhabited the region coast from the north of the republic to the Choapa River or the Aconcagua, to the south, and they lived by fishing. They currently form part of the day laboring class. They are properly of a Mara race primitive to Peru, which prevailed in the provinces of Tacna and Tarapacá to the south. Bollert found Changos from Cobija to Papuso. He says that they moved from one cove to another in search of food. The men were dedicated to fishing and the women to care for their flocks of sheep and goats. In Cobija, he found many graves in which the corpses were buried horizontally and the sexes separated from each other. Even though the tribes to which their name Changos has been applied can be considered only as occupants of the coast between the Choapa and Loa rivers, nevertheless, to make their relations more understandable, we believe it convenient to briefly indicate the different ancient and modern peoples who have inhabited the coast to much further north, and when possible, to point out the links or contacts that they have had with each other and with other tribes of the interior. The oldest remains that have been found belong to the race which the following Danker and Keene refer to as the Paleo-American. Vestiges of this race which some suppose to be autochthonous in America have been discovered in many parts of the continent. Their traces have been found in the coastal region of Coquimbo, Caldera, Papuso, and Cobija. Here we have a Incan Peruvian statue, and we have a Shango statue of Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. He looks very similar to the Florida Prince, but the gold jewelry and everything is a staple of South American Indians.